What's up, YouTube, and hello, Kingsread community. My name is Jason. This is going to be a long video, and I apologize in advance. There will be timestamps in the description below, so if you want to skip between characters, you can do so. 1 week ago, the Masang Soft developers dropped the cast of characters being released with Kingsread at launch. We still don't have a definitive launch date, but assuming nothing changes, this is the cast we're going to get. And this video is just going to go over all the units, what to expect from some of them, and with a few disclaimers, such as the fact that a lot of these opinions and information will be coming from my head, from when I played back then, and with a little bit of mix with recent research on characters post-update. So characters could be different than what we get at launch. We don't know if unique weapons and unique treasures are going to be available. If they are, great. That just makes this video a little bit better or a little bit more information heavy. However, this is just going to cover a few things, a little bit of information. There'll be edits of like what the unique treasures and unique weapons do on the screen when they are relevant. Video will probably be really long. Sorry about that. And then later on in future videos, I'll be covering a few more things. As always, I'll cover all the dev notes that come by. And when they do, you'll get the video and we'll continue from there. So, with that being said, here are the characters, starting with the Knights, the poster boy of Frontline, Klaus. So Klaus is a physical tank. He is probably the only real one that you need. You get him for free in the story. At least that's how it was before. There essentially is not going to be a better physical tank than Klaus early on. He provides everything you need for physical damage stages. There are going to be a lot of mixed ones between physical and magic stages in the campaign. The tower is going to have multiple different stages. You're going to use him in raids because he's just good. He provides a ton of defense for your team, a ton of good physical amp for your team, stun for the team. He does a lot. He does get replaced later on by tanks like Glennis, Loman. If NPC characters are available, then Loman will be a contender for main tank. In a lot of content, we end up using both of them because they're just really good together, especially when you get like unique treasures, unique weapons. Klaus's capabilities go up a lot. Unfortunately, a lot of his relevance, at least back then in PvE, was because of his unique, his soul weapon, which if you didn't watch previous videos or are not paying attention to the news, soul weapons are not a mandatory progression system anymore, which means their power is probably not going to be either existent or at all, like worth getting. We'll see how Klaus is in the future. A lot of characters got boosts from soul weapons, including him. If he's not as useful, then you'll use him for now and then you'll replace him later. It's totally fine. His unique weapon is mandatory if you plan on using him. Depending on how often we get unique weapons, unique treasures, whether in the shop or finding them, his won't be a priority right away, but when you can grab his, you should, because it'll just make him way better. His unique treasure is definitely unique treasure 1 for Cut Ground, which is Cape of Justice. It just makes it a lot better. I would prioritize that over the other 3, and then slowly grab the other 3 when you can. Only 1 unique treasure for every character can be used at once, so make sure you choose the right one so that you have it, and then can get the other ones for extra stat, or to swap between them. The next tank is Demia. So Demia is mainly a PvP-focused physical tank. Her role is similar to Klaus. She's in the front, but Demia does not provide as much protection as Klaus does. From what I remember, at least, Demia was mainly a PvP-focused tank. She has a really long-range pull that pulls backline to the front, and then stuns. She is an absolute monster in PvP. I think if you enjoy more turtle-focused comps, Demia should be one of the first tanks you grab for PvP. Really, really good. I wouldn't recommend picking her for PvE specifically unless you like the character. Klaus is just an outright better choice for physical content, and you get him for free. So unless you really like Demia or really like PvP, I wouldn't take her. Is there a unique weapon required? If you're focused on PvP and you're pushing for PvP ranks, then yes. If not, then you can ignore it. And then for unique treasure 3, which is called Aura of Protection, or unique treasure 1, Chest of Ziltrion, depending on what you're going for. 3 is more stun focus, and 1 is for more pulls, but both are meant for PvP. The first magic tank is Jane. Jane is a unique tank. She provides a lot of magic damage amp for your team. She has a very unique form of defense for herself, which is through vamp tanking, where she'll apply a dot. That dot will tick. It'll heal her. She can sustain herself in some form with that, but she is not invincible during this. She is very strong. A lot of people use Jane to cheese PvP via her passive, which when she dies, she goes to a coffin, she revives. When she revives, or during the passive, it stuns the entire enemy team, aka cheese, and then your team proceeds to AoE and kill them. So there was a content creator in the past, if you know, you know, Miss You Man, who mained Jane and Demia for that matter in PvP. He was a cool dude. Haven't seen him in a long time. Hope he's doing well. Jane is interesting. I don't think she's the better of the magic tanks available at start. She's cool, but I wouldn't take her personally over one of the next ones. Is her unique weapon required? Yes. If you're using her as a main tank, then 100%. If not, then less so. Although you could technically use her unique weapon for damage, and that would actually help her a lot. And her unique treasure priority should be unique treasure 3, Flowers of Forgotten Dukedom. So make sure you pick the right one, guys. The next tank is Morrah. She is the magic tank I would recommend if you're going for a magic team. Morrah is essentially equivalent to Klaus, but for magic damage. She has very, very, very little physical protection, so supports are a lot more mandatory for her. Magic stages are a lot harder to survive than physical stages by default. Because magic tanks they tend to have a little bit more physical damage in those stages too, which if you're bringing a full magic team, you're very vulnerable to that. But in regards to just taking tons of magic damage and magic spells, Morrah is very, very, very durable, and she makes your team very, very, very durable. She's very unique in that she debuffs the team and then makes them take more damage and then makes her take less damage based on that debuff. So she's really, really good. She has a place much later on via Guild Conquest where she's like integral for that team, but in terms of overall content, like raids and everything, you'll bring her along other better tanks like Aselica and Desarta when they come out or are available. She lost a lot from losing her soul weapon, similar to Klaus, but she is still very, very good and should be taken if you plan to use a magic team and adventure and stuff. Her unique weapon is required. Grab it when you can. And then her unique treasure pile should be unique treasure 3, which is called Hellish Sealing Stone. And then the last knight available is Sonia. So Sonia is very unique in that her kit is magic damage based off her maximum HP, very similar to another tank called Philip, who is not part of the launch cast, which I think previously he was, but they replaced her. Sonia does magic damage. She does a lot of stagger because of her passive, which when she attacks, she applies a stack of shock, and shock makes them take more magic damage, and they just take more stun, which is really, really powerful. Sonia's not the prior magic tank I would take. Like I would, especially for things like adventure, take Jane and Morrah over Sonia. Sonia can definitely sub-tank and provide extra utility, provide extra stacking, which is really, really nice, but she isn't one I would take. She is very cool, very unique, and very, very strong in PvP especially. There are items and like artifacts called Solar Stone, etc., that scale their HP even higher, makes enemies take bonus damage, reduce their healing stuff, making her a monster. But she's very reliant on all her unique items to make this happen, so I wouldn't prior her over other tanks that are better overall without them. Her unique weapon is required. Unique treasure would be either Lightning Tent or Lightning Gloves. Both are very reliable. They have to do with her passive as well as her buff, her self buff. So it just depends on how you're building her, how you're using her, but overall I think I would rather go with Lightning Tent. It's just more consistent. So, on to the warriors. Kasel, he is the protagonist of the game. Thankfully, he is one of the few protagonists or main protagonists in a game that isn't terrible. Kasel is actually very, very good. There are a lot of Kasel stands in the official Discord from what I've seen. I don't think he deserves that much praise, but he is very good. He is a warrior, very, very heavily reliant on his skill 2 to not die instantly, and very, very reliant on that to deal damage. He's a mixed bag for DPS. He's either really, really good with investment or not usable at all. I would definitely say if you like Kasel, and you plan on making him a main DPS, you need to full invest in him to make him good, or else he's terrible. He is definitely less tanky than other warriors available, and has less utility, but he has a lot more damage. So if you plan on using him, his unique weapon is 100% required, especially if you're using him in all content. And if you're going to, go all in on Kasel, then you want Unique Treasure 3, Proxy's Insignia, to make sure his ultimate is always available when needed. He can actually do damage. The next warrior is Gao. I personally don't have that much experience using Gao in PvE. I had friends who used him, and he was really good at stunning bosses, especially with his skill 3, his spin. We used him a lot early on to knock down Dragon when we were farming Black Dragon a lot, and he also provides a decent amount of damage amp. I didn't personally use him, so I won't say too much. However, I already know for sure he is really, really powerful in PvP. His spin stuns enemies, pulls them, freezes them. He's very, very bulky. Most people will build him bulky for PvP to make sure he's just there to stun and or for like a AoE nuke. But that's pretty much all I can say for him. I don't have that much experience using him, so I won't say too much. But just going over some of his kit. For PvE, his unique weapon is required, or is not required, but for PvP it is. And then for Treasure Prio, it's either Unique Treasure 1 for PvE or Unique Treasure 4 for PvP. And then if you're going for pure damage, it's Unique Treasure 2 or Unique Treasure 3. All of his unique treasures have a niche use in some way. It's just a matter of where you're using him for. That will change which treasure you prioritize. So the next one is Naila. In my opinion, Naila's the go-to warrior if you're gonna choose a warrior. Honestly, is probably the most tanky warrior out of the launch cast because dodge is kind of a very unique form of defense for characters, and warriors get base increased dodge, so it helps them survive a lot. Naila herself gives herself, like, with her skill to a ton of extra dodge at a low cost, so it's very, very, very powerful. Where, like, in some niche applications, you would use her as a main tank, especially for like solo challenge raid where you can only use limited class types. Naila would be, if warrior was one, then Naila would be kind of like the main staple one for that because she can tank pretty well. She has very, very niche use in PvP as well with AoE nuke with her S3, but has a ton of physical damage amps. So if you're going pure physical team and want to fit in a warrior, then Naila would be a fantastic option for that. A lot of her damage came from her soul weapon though, and it's not like she did no damage in PvE either, so we'll have to see how Naila performs without it. But even early on before soul weapons, she was very, very good. Used her in dragons all the time because the people I were farming with were mainly physical focus, so she was very, very good. Her unique weapon is 100% required, and for PvE, you'll want her unique treasure 1 or 4, and then for guild content also, and then unique treasure 2 or 3 for PvP, depending on if you're using her more for utility or more for a nuke type comp. Priscilla. She is a physical damage amper. Decent damage as well. Actually, a lot more damage than most people would think. We used her with her soul weapon back then, and she was really, really good. We didn't really use her without it. I didn't think her kit was that good without it previously. A lot of her bonus physical amp was from her soul weapon, so she might be a worse pick overall early than Naila. So I think if you were to choose between them, I would still take Naila over Priscilla. But Priscilla's kit is really, really strong. Very, very good for buffing a single character, nearly the hyper carry of the team. So if you wanted another character and like Priscilla a little bit more, then she's fine. If you plan on using Priscilla for content, then yes, her weapon is required. And then her unique treasure 2 for the buff is the best one. And if you're using her for PvP nukes, then her unique treasure 3 is the best one. So for the last warrior, it's Kirze. I don't understand the selection for this. Kirze, for me, when she came out, she was fucking useless. Her kit is very boss focused. She did a ton of damage against bosses, but outside of that, I don't remember a single thing about her. So the fact that she's a launch character is a little bit weird. There are plenty other warriors that are just better options than Kirze. So if you like her, then take her, but overall I wouldn't recommend it. And her unique weapon, she's completely useless without her unique weapons, so I wouldn't even recommend unless you like her. And then unique treasure is probably her unique treasure 3. Probably her best one. Okay, so on to assassins. Oh boy. He's one of the original cast members, like part of the main protagonist group. I don't remember Roy being good until you had high investment in his unique treasure. The one that affects his skill 3, that allows his skill to reset. Because I think it lowered the cooldown per star level, so it was really good. So, his Ink Treasure 3 allowed him to go really crazy, and that made him really good in regards to damage. So any content that required assassins like challenge raid, or even some dragon raids if they're a thing, some guild conquest content if you need him, pretty good, not so bad. Anything that didn't lower his mana or increase character cooldowns, Roy was really powerful in. But we'll have to see if unique treasures are available. If unique treasures are available at the start, then he's a genuinely good bossing character, but not really useful outside or anything like that. And after talking to someone, he was able to spam free soul weapon. So there's a bunch of information that in between when I stopped playing versus when soul weapons came out as well, because they also did come back after that, where there's information I'm missing about Roy, but I remember him being very good. If you like assassins, you like his style, then he's probably fine, to be honest. All right, Reina. Don't pick this character. I took her as a meme for a new account at one point, and she wasn't even bad. I main focused her as like the hyper carry for everything, and like her damage genuinely wasn't terrible, but I would never recommend a character, or I would never recommend this character as your main DPS to start off with. That would just be like completely wrong of me to do that, because they're just better characters. She has a spammable skill similar to Roy, which is like, I think it's called like float like butterfly or something, and she could literally spam it. It was very crazy. But alongside Roy and a bunch of other characters, you essentially can't play this character unless you manual control her, because you don't want her to use her ultimate unless you're in a dire situation where she might die because it gives her invincibility. But like you have to literally just spam S1 and S2 on off cooldown, so you wouldn't use her outside of bosses anyways. But if you genuinely want to try her and use her, then you need her unique weapon is not even a question, as high as possible, and her unique treasure 2 is Master's Ring for sure. Epis. So Epis is a hot character, obviously. She is a unique niche of backline jumping. She's not the only assassin that could do that, but she's the like one of the few that just straight jumps to the back, and it, she does a single target nuke. Very like homestay for an assassin character. The issue with Epis is that she has very good damage early and good damage in PvP up until a point where she gets outscaled. As soon as Epis stops one-shotting with her skill, she becomes useless. She'll be oppressive in PvP because people don't know how to deal with back. But in PvE content, where content scales, she'll eventually hit the wall where she won't kill anything anymore, and then her value essentially falls off the planet. Is she useful early? Yes. Will she help you early for content? Like, there are some tower floors that need backline jumping and stuff like that. She'll be very useful there, so it is worth having an assassin that can do that. I wouldn't prioritize her, but she is strong. So if you like the design of character, you like assassins, she's pretty good. But she will be replaced in game content because assassins kind of just lose their value overall. Her unique weapon is required, as all DPSs are, and her unique treasure 1 for maximum backline damage, or unique treasure 4 for scaling damage if you don't care about her jumping as much. Mirianne, oddly enough, I didn't write any notes about the character outside of the fact that she's a ranged assassin. She's very unique in that she is purely single target focus, so she'll mark a target, and then once the target is marked, she will pull target back, mark target until it dies, and then it will switch mark targets. One of her skills will jump to the back, will do like an AoE nuke, and then jump back to where she was. That attack does a lot of damage, I remember. Can be used full in PvP situations, can be used in some tower floors and some niche campaign floors where you need to kill the backline fast. I wouldn't say she's bad. I would actually say Mirianne has some more usages and some more content than Epis would, but I guess it just depends on the content you plan on doing. I think if you're focused on overall content, then I wouldn't take Mirianne at all. I would honestly just generally ignore assassins for the most part for most early game content, and then when you need them for certain content, then grab them, and that's probably the better choice. If you plan on using Mirianne, then yes, why wouldn't you take her unique weapon and make her stronger and all that, and then unique treasure 2 or 3 for the most damage. Okay, let's go to archers. Selene. So she's your very typical standard ranger character. She's a middle position archer. She's fairly weak AoE, but very, very high single target. There are the least archers overall in the game, like at least later on. And archers don't really get that much better. There are some really powerful ones, but like relative to the number of overall archers, it's not that hard to look much, much stronger than you actually are. She's cool. She has a good amount of damage output. She's good for bosses. In regards to just like physical archers, she'll be pretty okay if you like her. She'll do her job, but I wouldn't expect like the highest overall damage you can squeeze out for sure. If you like Selene, then yes, her unique weapon is required. If she's the main carry, then unique treasure 2. And if you want more utility, like a little bit more damage jam, then she's a secondary carry, then unique treasure 3. Silver arrow. So Dimael, I've never used this guy in my life. There are content creators and friends who use him. He's essentially just Selene but for magic. He provides a lot more magic damage though than I think Selene does for physical. And he has really good support with his skill 2, skill 3, with the silence and then the shackle and all that stuff. So looking at his kit, he may be better than I assume he would be. And he's looking just like an overall really good DPS that's useful for magic content. If you want a magic ranger, yeah, you need his weapon for sure. I'm not 100% sure on which treasure is better, but I would assume unique treasure 3 or 4. Eye of Shadows or Black Crown. I used Luna quite a bit early on for Fire Dragon. Her nuke for the trash was really, really good. And her knockdown with her ult was really, really good. She has a decent combo of like both AoE and single target. But a majority of her damage comes out in bursts of damage, mainly from her skill 3. She does have utility via like magic defense, shred, and blind, but I would focus solely on her if she was like a main carry for magic teams, like guild conquest or farming content. So if you like nuking type characters, Luna's really good, and you would want her unique weapon. And then her unique treasure 2 is undoubtedly Moonlight Carrot, which is for her second skill. The last ranger, which is Arc. He is a magic type ranger. I don't have any experience myself using him, but I have seen content and PvP with him in it, and he is kind of a beast. His passive is really, really powerful. His sigil ignores defense. I've only seen videos recently, like doing some research about the character, where he is used as like a main carry, and like he's really, really good at that. But like main carry isn't like 7 other supports and other characters that amp damage to make him a hyper carry. I don't think he's the best overall. I think he's good, and he has a lot more use overall in like PvP than PvE is where I would say. I think if you want to use Arc, he needs his unique weapon. Otherwise, I would just ignore him completely. And if you're using him as a main DPS in PvE, then you want his unique treasure 2, or 3 for support as like a sub DPS, or unique treasure 4 if you're choosing PvP with him, and ideally not fighting characters like Leo. Okay, so let's go to mechanics. I never used this character in my entire career playing this game, and that was like several years. So I don't have any personal things I could say that reminds me of him, although I have just opinions on YouTube videos and reading over his kit. He's like a scaling DPS unit. Very unique in that every time he uses skill, he'll proc his passive, which then triggers a new effect. When I looked at him, I was like, oh, this seems like a pretty good sub DPS, and like his damage couldn't have been bad, at least up to the point where I quit. He looks okay as a DPS, though. I wouldn't say he's horrible, but I wouldn't main him personally. If he does damage and he's actually really, really strong, like videos and other people suggest, then he needs his unique weapon. And then I think his unique treasure prio is probably unique treasure 1, which is Cudgel Bullet, because it provides more utility at a low cost. That's what I would use if I was using him. So, Miruru, in my opinion, she's the best DPS mechanic you could bring, 100%, without a doubt. In my opinion, arguably one of the best starting characters you can get. She is so, so good. One of the best starter characters you can bring at launch. The unfortunate thing about Miruru is that if you bring her, you cannot use her without her unique weapon. She is unique weapon reliant, but for all the good reasons that you can ask for. You definitely want her to proc her passive, which like essentially she'll attack, and then at a certain chance, like a random bomb will come from the sky and hit an enemy, and like all her damage is just those procs and her auto attacks. So like she really doesn't need to press anything. Like if you could just have her auto attack, like she's genuinely that that crazy, but she does provide a ton of extra physical damage, ton of amp, ton of CC. She is really, really good. And I think if you're going pure physical team, like, she's an absolute must to have early on. Yeah, so I would say Unique Treasure 3 or Unique Treasure 4. For Unique Treasure 3, lowers her cooldown when she hits, and then Unique Treasure 4 is just for her activation on her passive, which is very, very strong. Really, really cool. So, next one is Rodina. This character sucks, I'll be honest. Everything I've looked about for this character from other content creators, like, she doesn't look like she does fucking anything. I have no information on how she was post-balance patch or with Soul Weapon or anything like that. It's hard to say if she does more or less than Lakrak does, but if you guys have information, please tell me. But I wouldn't even take this character. I think if you plan on using her as a DPS, then you'll probably need her unique weapon, assuming it even does damage. And then for me, information tells me that at least her unique treasure 1 is probably her best thing. So I'm sorry, don't have much to say about her. I wouldn't pick her though. Annette, on the other hand, I would say she's a mandatory pick to have just in your roster. She is unbelievably good, super, super broken. I remember using her from the start of the game up until I quit, and then when I came back when soul weapons were a thing, several years, and then even recent videos up until, you know, post-balance patch and stuff, I still saw people using her, so she's like a main staple character that you're going to want to use forever. So if you can use her, you definitely should pick her up for magic teams, for raid teams, for anything. She's an absolute must to have, I think. Her unique weapon is mandatory. She's also one of those like support type characters or like sub DPS characters that you want her unique treasure and her unique weapon. I'd recommend getting max stars out of it. I think as soon as your DPS is complete, or if you somehow pull multiple of her weapon, I would max it out as soon as you can. It's so OP. And treasure is treasure 3, Code of Annihilation, or treasure 4, high performance battery. Both are really, really OP. I think lower people use Code of Annihilation though. Let's see. Wizard. Cleo. I don't remember too much about Cleo up until she got her soul weapon. I remember most people used her unique treasure 3 though, because it made her ultimate more spammable, which was really good for farming content. If you liked Cleo as like a main DPS, you had her unique weapon high for some reason or whatever, then you had her unique treasure 3, you could essentially use her to farm story content because her unique treasure allowed her ult to kind of just lower its cooldown and made it pretty much spammable, so it was really, really powerful. I don't know how she is without it though, because I never really used her. I essentially replaced all the starting cast characters early on, like within the first like day or something. So I don't really have too much experience using the original cast all that much, but I do remember seeing videos of like Cleo kind of owning. So I would say, depending on if we get enough for her, then I would say her unique weapon is mandatory if you plan on using her. And then, like I mentioned, unique treasure 3 is her best one. Morrah. She's a CC mage. Very, very good. I think if you plan on going magic teams, she is a good option. She provides more CC than damage though, so if you're struggling on damage, she's not going to be the one to fix that. She does provide a lot of debuffs though, like making them take more damage, reducing their attack speed, crit chance, healing, and then she has a pull, which is really, really nice, but I would say she's not like a mandatory unit, but if you like her style, like the way she works, she's pretty good. Her unique weapon does more damage, or allows her to do more damage, but I would say if you have more priorities than her, then you can ignore it for now. And then unique treasure 3, which is the pull skill, does a lot. I think it's the best one. Lorraine is actually my pick for mage. I think Lorraine is super busted. In my opinion, she just does what Maria does, but better outside of the pull. Her dot does ridiculous damage. I don't know what it is with poison, but the way Lorraine applies poison is just through using her skills. And for some reason, the poison does so much damage, but also just does more than damage. It does a bunch of debuffs, reduces healing, and stuff like that, depending on which treasure you use. So really, really good. Really good AoE. Very powerful. If you plan on using Lorraine for magic team, well, she is the one I would recommend. So I would recommend getting her unique weapon if you do. And then her unique treasure 3 is her best one, for sure. So for a free priest, she's really not that bad. I think people understate Frey and what she does. We used Frey a lot for farming dragons because her ultimate, which is the like giant beam, does insane stun buildup, which is what you want a lot for if you're especially like lower damage for raids and stuff. She has good shielding. She has good burst of healing. I would say like long term she's probably not as great, but overall she's a good starting healer. If you don't want to pick a healer, then Frey will do for a little while. You'll eventually replace her though, because there are just better overall healers than her. I think if you have a raid team you're going in, whatever, and one person brings Frey, she'll do really well. I think if you want her healing to be better, then you'll need to use her unique weapon. Otherwise, you can avoid it. Or if you're using her as a secondary healer, then you don't need it as much. And then all the treasures do something for her, which is very rare. Usually there's like 1 or 2 really good treasures, but Frey has a use for all her treasure, which is surprising. So depending on content, let's say if you're doing standard party size content, so like story and stuff, then you'll want her treasure 2, which is her shield. For raid size content, or if you're going multiple healers, then you'll probably want treasure 3, because it's really, really good utility. Next is Kaulah. This orc brother. He has a bit of a mixed bag. He has good utility, and a lot of his skills come in bursts of something. And what I mean by that is that they all hover around the same cooldown, but they all do something different and would be used for different things, like either a short buff, burst of healing, or like a really, really big stun similar to Frey. So like you would want to use it based on the situation that you need it in right away. In my opinion, he's ignorable. Like you don't need him, but he is not terrible. He does a lot of what Frey does. I think a little bit more utility. But he's generally not bad. I think if you need a good priest, he's pretty okay. I think his unique weapon is not required. It helps a little bit, but not great. And then treasure 2 is his priority, which is Skywind Feather Decoration. Next is a Rephy. I think Rephy is one of 2 mandatory priests to pick up, and it's really just because he has a really good all-rounded kit for both physical and magic teams. And he applies decent debuffs to enemies. I think he is the only character in the game early that has a team-wide cleanse, which for a lot of content is so strong, especially raiding content. And I think he's one of 2 characters outside of Laias that has mana recovery in some form. So I think if you need him for like a healer or for like small and large group parties, I think he's 100% worth having. His unique weapon is required, because it gives mana recovery. So that alone makes it super valuable for a priest. So I would say yes, 100%. And unique treasure 2 or 3. So either Seed of Birth or Haven of Souls, because they affect the cleanse or the debuff, which provides more healing. I don't know too much about Baudouin outside of the fact that he gives team-wide invincibility. People use this a load in PvP up until people figure out that Leo can fuck him up. I don't have any information about him on PvE, although his kit looks like it could provide decent healing and debuffs. If you want to cheese in PvP early and people don't know what Leo does, then use Baudouin. He'll help you win fights, no problem. But also, I don't have much information. His unique weapon isn't required. And if I were to use the unique treasure, it'd be for his invincibility, which is well-worn rosary. Unique treasure 3. Laias. In my opinion, the must-pick for priests, if you have the option to pick a priest. She does a ridiculous amount in her kit, so I would definitely take her. She has a long-lasting impact in regards to supports for magic teams, as well as PvP. She was, after all, the first RTA skin in PvP, because she was that good. She is the only other character outside of Rephy that gives mana, so she provides 2 bubbles of mana, which is, if you think about it, is super OP for a lot of characters, while Rephy provides mana recovery over time. She provides healing on auto attack, she provides bubbles that give defense, bonus magic defense. She's just overloaded with just an insane kit. Her unique weapon, I think if you want her maximum potential is mandatory, because it just gives way more healing on auto attack. And then her unique treasure 3 or 4 for the mana recovery for different purposes, like either more mana recovery instantly or more mana recovery over time. She is just so good. In my opinion, the best healer to pick, without a doubt. Leo. So Leo is the hard counter for most teams in PvP early on. I think if you want to be an absolute menace, then you 100% want to bring Leo. However, the caveat to that is that you need a water artifact. I don't remember what it's called. Water of Life, Water of something. It gives you mana bubbles at the start of battle, which allows you to instant cast Leo's ultimate. You need that. Especially if you're going against people like Baudouin and stuff like that, you need Leo's artifact. It is OP. it allows him to go first every single time. His kit for PvE is very, very underwhelming. I would not use him for PvE at all. There are just way better pieces, way better suited for it. So don't use him for PvE in my opinion, unless for some reason you like his silence or his runes and all that stuff. And even so, his unique weapon for PvP is mandatory because it makes the silence last 1 second longer. So if you're a PvP frog, especially for RTA and other things, and Leo doesn't get banned, or you use him in Arena, which the Arena's kind of a mixed bag, but it's fun to me. You'll want to use Leo for a while. Later on, when characters like Loman and stuff like that come out where they can cleanse Leo's silence and everything, that's when it's better. But up until that point, or when people are starting to build like actual PvP gear, like CC resist gear and all that stuff, yeah, Leo's kind of the best priest for PvP. Whew. So that was, how long was that? That was a 47-minute recording, which will probably be edited down. Anyways, so if you sat through the entirety of the 47 or however long minutes, I appreciate you so much. King's Raid is coming back is the reason I even became a streamer in the first place. I was one of the few streamers back then who played multiple accounts, tried to help newer players, everything. Now that I'm in a position where I can do content creation and do all this stuff without worrying about school and other things and work, it feels so good to be back. And I hope the community is as welcoming and amazing to other new players as well. I will do my best to cover it on the website and everything. Ideally, Mustang doesn't go down a route that destroys the game like Vespa did. It seems like the excitement around the return of the game is really, really good. Really, really, really exciting. I'll be covering it for the website loonwaifus.com. If you guys need more text-based guides, we'll be putting all of our guides there, mostly written by me, few maybe other community members that are interested in the game, but mostly by myself. So if you could support me by subscribing to this channel, subscribing to Loon Waifus channel, checking out the website as much as you can, that'd be amazing. Obviously, if there's updates to the roster or changes to characters or more dev notes, I'll cover them here. So make sure you subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you for watching, guys. It's the middle of the day, about to get back to work, but have a great one, guys, and I'll see you in the next King's Raid video. Bye-bye now.